David Hyde Pierce was in the news for more than 10 years, a regular on primetime TV. His portrayal of Niles Crane on the show Frasier not only won awards, but it was famous. And he won 4 Emmys and a permanent place in pop culture. But then, he disappeared nearly without a word, out of the spotlight. No scandals, no headlines that are really spectacular, merely a gentle step back. People were left wondering, was it burnout, a choice made by the person, or stuff going on behind the scenes? When the camera stopped rolling, Pierce was already going in a different route, one that didn't have much to do with the movies. So, what made him leave? On stage? And why hasn't he back? Keep watching to find out. David Pierce will always be known as the sharp Niles Crane, the neurotic character from Frasier, came into the world at Saratoga Springs, New York. Later, he added Hyde to his name too, to keep from getting confused with another actor named David Pierce. But his artistic path began a long time before that. When he was a kid, was already showing signs of being an artist. Flair. He played the organ at Bethesda Episcopal Church and spent the summer at Camp Kababayan is a camp for boys only. He didn't simply act in Gilbert and he directed Sullivan's plays, including a performance of HMS Pinhor. After finishing high school in 1977, Pierce went to Yale University. He began as a music major with a concentration on playing the piano, but his hobbies changed over time. He changed to a second major in English literature and theatrical studies, which is a step that shown how much he was starting to love the stage. Pierce was quite involved at Yale, involved with theater on campus. He did something, supervised, and even led the Yale Gilbert and the Sullivan Society show of Ida the Princess. He had earned his by 1981 Bachelor of Arts, not leaving behind not only a diploma, but a path of great shows. Pierce moved to with his degree in hand, New York City, where he juggled a lot of different things. Jobs to stay alive, like selling ties at Bloomingdale's, where he worked as a security guard while still training as an actor at Michael Howard Studios. While this early part of his career, he got the part of lyricist in and off Hamlet on Broadway with Kevin Kline. And in 1982, he did his Beyond Therapy was her first Broadway show. Christopher Durang wrote a comedy. The big break on TV came with The Powers That Be is a political comedy show made by Norman Lear. In that show, Pierce played Theodore Van Horn, a sad congressman who finishes up falling in love with the maid, which is strange, a layout that would subsequently be familiar in Frasier, where he played the role of Niles, wants Daphne, the live and physical therapist. It's interesting because Frasier was never meant to have a brother character on. Thanks. Frasier was first, became an only kid. The idea of Niles came later, spurred by a casting assistant who saw a very similar look to David Hyde Pierce and a young Kelsey Grammer. That similarity was enough to get producers thought. They asked Pierce to meet with them. And even if there was no, they talked for almost an hour without a script. Hour talking about who this brother could be, throwing out ideas like having Niles be a Jungian while Frasier was a Freudian. Not long later, they offered him. Frasier made its TV debut on NBC on September 16, 1993 as on NBC for the first time on September 16, 1993, a spin-off of the popular sitcom Thanks. The presentation was all about Frasier Crane, a psychiatrist on the radio, portrayed by Kelsey Grammer, who has already been a well-known face to audiences while he was on Cheers. Frasier's character left Boston after, picked up with him and started a new chapter in Seattle, Washington. Although the spin-off was based on a well-known character, it immediately made its own identity. While Cheers honored the lives of everyday working-class bar regulars, Frasier leaned into humor, sophistication, and a considerably drier sense. More like a British comedy than an American sitcom. More like a comedy than a standard American sitcom. The original plan for Frasier Crane's character on Cheers was pretty not much. He was supposed to be a temporary Diane Chambers' romantic interest performed by by Shelley Long to get things going. Disagreement with her ex-boyfriend Spamalot, played by Ted Danson. But people who watched replied to Frasier in such a good way that the writers gave him a bigger part in the. Long's departure didn't change the fact that he was a series regular, leaving. When Cheers ended, Frasier had become such a unique character that a solo series seemed like a character that a single series seems like a next step in nature. But Frasier wasn't merely a continuation. It was a new creation. To completely leave the past behind, the new show wrote out Frasier's wife through a divorce and gave custody of their son Frederick alone with her. This choice in the story gave the spin-off freedom to not have to depend on the Cheers group and instead make a new universe for Frasier. In Seattle, Frasier's life was changed, with a fresh group of interesting people. His younger siblings were the most important of them. David played Niles Crane, the brother, Hyde Pierce and their dad, Martin. John Mahoney plays Crane. There, the family dynamic became the most important part of the show. Martin, who used to be a police officer, detective with a frank, no-nonsense personality, moved in with Frasier following. He needed help because of a hip injury. The arrangement made it funny right away. Fight. Frasier, a cultured and neurotic intellectual, always found himself not agreeing with his father's more realistic and a sensible view of life. Martin didn't move in by themselves. He carried with him his messy canine, Eddie, who swiftly become a persistent pain in Frasier's side. To assist take care of Martin, Frasier employed Daphne Moon, who was strange, but a kind-hearted physical therapist from England. It didn't take her long to become a member of the family and get Niles' attention, even though got married at the start of the series. Niles became quietly infatuated with Daphne. Daphne's interest in Daphne, that progressively became one of the most important parts of the show. Lovely and slowly building plots. Frasier and Niles seem to look like they are the same. Both are psychiatrists, people who love opera, and really loves great wine and art. But as the series went on, their differences became clear. Frasier, having been around the regulars from the working class at a Boston tavern, had at least a hint of awareness of oneself. Niles, on the other hand, was very deeply rooted in his privileged childhood, still blissfully oblivious of how snobby he could be. As the New York Times once smartly said, Frasier realizes that they are being snobby. Niles doesn't really. Not everyone in the fans saw Niles via rose-colored glasses. Some people on Reddit have said that problems, his constant lying and unpleasant behavior, disruptions and not getting help for his sibling. Even Pierce himself once indicated in an interview that he probably wouldn't be able to stand Niles in real life. But some people say that those features were quite important to the show's humor. Without Niles' oddities, neuroses, and strange social behavior, a lot of stories, there wouldn't be any lines over time. But Niles changed with time. He was obsessed. Germophobia, which is quite funny and hard to understand. Relationship with Maris, who has never been seen. And his love for Daphne that he didn't say all, started to change. Niles slowly showed actual progress and being open. Hey Daphne, once a dream that seemed impossible, become his anchor, dragging him out of his anxious bubble and providing him the type of emotional stability Frasier himself never quite got there. The show was boring. Fans of Frasier's name say it was. Niles gave it its real emotional heart. David Hyde from 1993 until 2004. Pierce won 11 Emmys in a row. Nominations for Best Supporting Actor, Performer in a Comedy Show, and won 4 victories. In a vote on Reddit, Niles was the clear winner, showing just how much people connected with him. After Frasier ended, David Hyde Pierce went in an unexpected direction away from the world of sitcoms that made him famous and into the brilliant lights of Broadway. Joining was his first big step. In 2005, the original cast of Spamalot, a musical based on Monty Python and the Holy Grail and made by a famous comedian, Eric Idle, sharing the stage with Tim Curry, Sarah, and other heavyweights. Pierce stepped up with Ramirez and Hank Azaria as Sir Robin, the same portion Idle himself played. It was Price took a big risk, but he handled it like a pro for a season. For someone who just got out of 11, It might have been a hit TV comedy for years. Could have gone any way. But Pierce didn't just hold his own. He showed that he fit in. He brought good timing for comedy, strong voice, and a tremendous presence on stage. It was the start of a new chapter, one where theater would be more than merely a side job. It turned into a second act in his job. He got a job about a year later, playing the lead role in the musical Curtains. Rupert Holmes wrote a mystery comedy. Includes music from the famous Candor and Ebb, the people that made Chicago. In Curtains, Pierce played a detective named Frank Chaffee, with hopes of becoming a star on Broadway. The event itself got mixed reviews, although Pierce's performance was the best. People who don't like it made him the center of the working with the New York Times, calling his effort a Broadway hit moment. He had terrific chemistry on stage, featuring co-stars including Deborah Monk and Frasier alum Edward Hibbert, and his shine through with a funny flair. This part wasn't merely a victory, it firmly set up Pierce as a star of the stage, with his growing stage profile, focus instinctively turned toward his own life, which he had kept very private during Frasier's whole run. First, interviews in which he avoided answering questions. People started to wonder about dating, and in 2007, Pierce quietly disclosed that he was in a long-term relationship with a writer, and Brian Hargrove, the producer. There was no big reveal, just one line. In a CNN report on his life, talking about his lover in a casual way. That, the same year when he won the Tony Award, speaking for Curtains, he said thank you to Hargrove in front of everyone. That felt real and natural. After that, he said that he hadn't even realized his sexual orientation at first. When he met Hargrove, they started out as close friends who didn't know they were both gay. In October 2008, they got married, before same-sex marriage was banned in California. Not allowed in California. The time left. Pierce was torn and grateful that people knew they were married, but worried about what the law said. His calm, my private life unexpectedly crossed paths with politics, and for the first time, he become a vocal supporter of LGBTQ plus rights, not happy to let his private life speaks for itself. Pierce started to speak up in public, thinking that being seen was important. He said that becoming famous makes it hard to stay. Being quiet felt wrong. Over time, his advocacy grew to include more than just LGBTQ plus rights. The same year he came, 2007, he became the national spokesperson for the Alzheimer's Association, a cause really personal to him. During interviews, he talked about the condition with honesty without fear, a sickness that tears apart your brain one piece at a time, and it doesn't stop until it kills. It keeps on till it kills you. He was driven by his love for the cause to testify in front of Congress, asking lawmakers to treat Alzheimer's as seriously as any other big public, a health crisis. It wasn't for Pierce, only advocacy. It was family. His grandfather had been sick with Alzheimer's disease in the 1980s, long before that. People knew a lot about the sickness. At a family meal, when they figured it out. When Grandpa couldn't read the menu. From the father was slow and severe, once a calm man who played chess, his demeanor altered and taken care of. It was almost impossible to care for him. George, Pierce's father, had a different sort of dementia following a stroke. His mother looked after him till she died in 1995, which was a loss. Pierce was partly caused by the stress of taking care of someone. His father passed away not long ago. Years later, those encounters left an enduring effect. It all started off as a simple, fast showing up at a memory stroll, turned become a lifelong promise to advocacy for Alzheimer's. He spoke out a lot, backer of the National Alzheimer's Project Act, which helps move the sickness in the national news. And in a remark that moved me while I was accepting the Isabel Stevenson Award in 2010, Pierce thought about the Tony Awards, memory's own fragility, but made a commitment from the heart to never forget that night or the reason. Even with Pierce kept going despite his growing involvement, working in movies and plays. He did it in 2010, played a role in The Perfect Host, a dark comedy where he portrayed Warwick, a seemingly well-mannered man who turns the tables on a burglar. Some critics were on one side and some were on the other. A lot of people liked Pisces, a layered performance that makes you feel uneasy, but the people didn't like the movie because of its lack of too many story twists and not enough logic. At the same time, he went back to the stage, playing a role in the resurrection of Lebet in both New York and London. He then made his first movie as a filmmaker with a musical called It Should Have Been You. Brian Hargrove wrote this. The first performance took place in 2011 and finally made it on Broadway in 2015. The musical, which starred Tyne Daly, got mixed reviews lauded for its passion, and some people thought it was a little too funny from the past. After that, he said, Ripcord is another show that is not on Broadway. It got a lot of good reviews in 2015 for its enjoyable like sitcom. Then came when the 2017 ABC miniseries We Rise, writing about the LGBTQ+ rights movement from the activist point of view. Cleve Jones. Pierce played Jones's father, a conservative doctor who is having a hard time to accept who his son is. It was a layered essential position, and Pierce took. It was because he wanted to show. That kind of thing is hard and human. Could be apparent. It's interesting that it was Cleve Jones himself asked for. Pierce plays the part. It turns out that his dad liked Frasier and thought the man who portrayed Niles was great. Pierce also played the same job again in 2017. In the funny movie Wet Hot American, Summer and the Good Wife made appearances. But even though he was still there, Pierce was still a reluctant actor on screen, famous person. In an interview that same year, following year, he said that celebrity never really wasn't right for him. A tabloid early in his career fooled his mom into giving him an interview acting like they were from the Boston Globe. Another time, photographers hid in trees specifically to take pictures. Pictures showed him taking his dog for a walk. Those experiences left a mark many people don't like. Pierce never chased the Hollywood spotlight. He just wanted to do something. And because Frasier was so popular, he had the ability to do exactly that on his own terms. But as he kept carving, the world was calm as he made his own way, set to go through a calamity that would stop everything that happens on and off stage. In 2020, when the CO-19 epidemic hit, stopped the globe in its tracks, the entertainment business was impacted just as hard. The film sets went quiet and Broadway closed its doors, and artists all over were stuck in limbo. For David Hyde Pierce, it turned into more than simply a professional break. It was a moment to think about yourself. All by itself at home with his husband, Brian Pierce, felt himself going back to past grief, especially because his parents died while attempting to figure out the world turned upside down. But in the silence, he also found what really important. Love, connection, and seeking the light in the dark. That a sense of mission brought him back to his family. In a moment of coming back together, he joined his Frasier castmates for a virtual fundraiser to give back. Castmates for a virtual fundraiser in support for the Actors Fund. Then came an unexpected return to TV. In 2022, Pierce stepped back into the Paul Child, the husband of the HBO show about famous chef Julia Child. Max drama Julia, he got the part at the proper time. Originally cast earlier, but pulled away by a Broadway chance. He came back to the project when the play was called off because of the pandemic. With Joan Cusack and Tom Hollander had been at first. The show starred Julia and Paul as Julia and Paul had to shut down early only a few days into shooting, after Cusack was taken out by Sarah Lanisher and Hollander left. Pierce was able to stride forward since the way was clear. It was a lucky break from the very start. After reading the script, Pice felt pulled to the tale. The character of Paul Child, he was fascinated. A man of the Renaissance who played the violin, painted, and practiced judo, made furniture, and loved it deeply. For cuisine, wine, and buildings, Pierce liked how Paul had been there for. Julia's ascent to stardom was quiet. strength that men of that day didn't often show. It struck a chord with Pierce personally, reflecting on his personal experiences of help and collaboration. Even though Julia, Pisces only lasted for 2 seasons, the performance got a lot of praise. The show gave him a chance to display a fresh aspect of himself on TV, diving into a deep, character-driven story that showed mature relationships and complicated characters. In the meantime, admirers of Frasier were humming with the news of the series' rebirth in 2023, over 20 years later, after it was over. But something was not there. Frasier's favorite person, Niles Crane, wasn't coming back, younger brother. As the revival brought in new characters, at a new place, a lot of people were. Made many wonder why David Hyde Pierce decided not to reprise his famous role. It turns out that the answer was easy. Pierce had previously promised Julia, and was also working on other things like Here We Are is a musical with a star-studded cast with Dennis, Bobby Cannavale, and O'Hare. Pice was honest in interviews, said that his choice had nothing to do with not looking at Niles or not accepting the show. He adored every second of his time with Frasier. But at this point he was more concerned in his career than looking for new creative challenges. He thought the relaunch didn't need his presence to do well. He thinks that Frasier might and maybe should change, like the first one, into something new had done when it split off from Thanks. He wanted to leave Niles where he was, not because he didn't care, but because of respect for what the character and what the series meant to him. Kelsey Grammer, returning as Frasier Crane, confirmed that Pice's choice originated from a thoughtful place, while producers had at first wanted to bring back the complete legacy cast: Pierce, Jane Leeves, and Perry. Gilpin and the late John Mahoney didn't go as planned. Grammer thought it was an chance to start a third act for Frasier, putting the character in a new city with fresh people all around. New things to talk about, even though there was even if Niles wasn't there, he was still there. Through David, the son of his and Daphne, Anders Keith plays Crane. A few well-known characters like Roz and Lilith both made guest appearances. Yet the antagonism between the siblings that marked a lot of the original series was quite not there. Pice hasn't closed the door yet though. Door all the way. He's made it plain that even though he doesn't want to come back as he's open to the possibility of being a regular on the show. A guest appearance at the opportune time comes along, and Grammer agrees, saying that Pierce would be happy to come back whenever.